Hey, so I just wanted to break down moment's notice for you in the way I might practice it, to give you a few ideas that might make it easier. So the thing that's hard about moment's notice, I think, or one of the things that's hard, is this weird side slip motion. So you can see it in the first few bars of the tune. It goes from E minor seventh to A7, and then F minor, B flat 7, and then resolves to E flat. And there's a slightly unusual resolution of that progression as well, the A flat minor going to D flat 7. Instead of going back to the expected E flat major, it actually pivots into this, which is like a tritone sub, D minor G7, E flat minor A7, D flat major, and then that bit's fairly obvious. Then again we get this, and then that all up to that point that seems quite familiar, but then we get that sort of side slip motion again, and then to the top of the progression. Second half, again that. So this is interesting because I think most of our side slip motion that we like is come across in bebop, that kind of stuff, or like that sort of conception. George Shearing, for instance, you have progressions that descend, but this one's unusual because it ascends, which is kind of a different thing. The logic of that progression from the point of view of the melody note is fairly obvious because, it's a G, it's a third. And as we're coming up to Christmas, jingle bells, you can make that work with any melody that sits on a third, it's a... So really, in a sense, what you can say is that it's essentially just a decoration of that 2-5-1, F minor, B flat 7, E flat major. But it seems to be a feature of the harmony that we'd like to develop in our soloing over the tune, so it's something to bear in mind. So the overall structure of the tune, when we get this, so that feels very much in the E flat key, right? And that's like 4 minor, which is common. That kind of movement's common in bop, but we get this thing. So we then pivot into the key of D flat. There's a 2-5-1 into C minor, and then another 2-5-1 into A flat major, and we get this sort of movement again. This G flat major. So it's like. And then you expect it to go back into E flat after that, but it doesn't. So the key centers are E flat major, D flat major, and then we go into C minor, and then we go into A flat major, and then we go into G flat major 6th or whatever it is there. Okay, so in terms of blocking this down, it's easiest if you get rid of all the 2-5-1s and just concentrate on either the 5s or the 2s. As I'm a student at Barry Harris, I tend to focus on the 5s, but that doesn't mean that I only play the 5s, as you'll see in a second. So for instance, if we just go A7, B flat 7, E flat 7, D flat 7, G7, A flat 7, D flat major, and then G7 flat 9, and then we go C minor, C minor 7th in a minute, E flat 7, A flat, D flat 7, C7, D flat 7, G flat. And that's kind of already kind of simplified it down a bit, while at the same time losing nothing of that essential quality of the harmony. So we can run scales through it, and we use this Barry Harris scale outline process. So for dominant 7th chords and major chords, we run the scale up to the 7th, and also for minors. In a minor case, it's slightly different. So for majors and the dominants, we run up to the 7th and back. So, for instance, A flat 7, A7, just like that, and E flat major. Just up to the 7th, right? Now for the excuse me, for the minors, we run the minor 6th diminished scale up to the 6th. Okay, which is a little unusual. That seems to be the authentic Barry Harris way to do it. And then for the G7 flat 9 scale, we run down from the flat 9 to the 3rd using a harmonic minor scale. Now the way Barry Harris talks about this is he talks about running the B flat 7 scale down to the 3rd of G7, right? We won't worry about that. If you're not familiar with that terminology, we won't worry about it for now, but that's just what the scale is. And you can see that it kind of outlines that diminished 7th. 1, and 2 and 3 and 4 very nicely. Which gives you the G7 flat 9 sound, right? It's a really good way of doing it. So then we just run it, and we try to run all the scales in the same part of the neck, so it it becomes an exercise in fretboard mapping to some extent. So A7, B flat 7, E major. Okay, and then D flat 7, G7, A flat 7, D flat major. Okay, now we run down the G7 flat 9, and then it's C minor 6th diminished right there, and then E flat 7, A flat 7, major, sorry, and then D flat 7, C7. Now on the guitar it's hard not to do this moving up and down a fret thing. I suppose maybe you should practice it without doing that, but it just seems so natural to the instrument. It seems like, moments notice is hard enough tune as it is. Probably if you get more, so you're running, I don't know, let me try that. So what I'm doing there is I'm just running a D flat 7 scale, C7 scale, and back to D flat 7, all in one move while using the added notes. That's something I might talk about in another video. It's not something I have under my fingers yet, but it's quite a challenging way to practice the Barry Harris material. Okay, yeah, so let me get that. Learn. And then G flat. And then B flat 7. And then we're back into the top of the tune. I won't worry about the second half, it's easier than the first. So in terms of options for soloing, after you've done this work, and you should get it so that it's under your fingers, obviously. And then, yeah, not perfect. You'll notice that there's a couple of little hiatuses where. Hiati? Is even the right word? I don't know. Anyway, there are little breaks, little gaps where I couldn't quite remember what I was going to do next. I think it's better to do it that way rather than necessarily try and go for metronomic time right away. I'd rather play at a reasonable lick and a reasonable speed, because then I know that I'm going to be able to do it in real time to some degree. And then it's a matter of just practicing until it's smooth rather than a matter of trying to start slow and then speed up. That's personally the way I practice these scale things, and it's influenced by the fact that whenever I go to a Barry Harris workshop, everything's always at full speed, So a lot of it is preparing for me to be able to deal with that situation. Okay, now in terms of soloing, you can use some of the, you don't have to use the whole scale, obviously. So one thing I might do, which is quite a simple approach, I suppose, is just use something like a little one of the arpeggios of that scale. An obvious one might be the 5 minor 7th. So in the case of A7, E minor 7th, and in the case of B flat, F minor 7th. So you're playing on the 2s essentially, if you like. So yeah. Yeah, then it's finding a way of resolving that into that E flat major, which it's a bit lame, that one. I don't like that. I'm using some closures of the thirds there. Barry Harris calls that a 4th ending, by the way, or a 4 ending, because you start on the 4, and then you do a little chromatic enclosure into the 3rd. But let's just go back to the arpeggios for now. You can use minors for that as well, I guess. And then, okay, and then let's use the diminished 7th. Yeah. There's a classic example there. So you'll notice me using the half diminished 7th to get into the C minor. And then this is really just bad as what beat you start on. If I go, or if I go, you'll notice that I use a different passing tone there because of the first one. That's fine. I can just go down the scale and hit the fifth of A flat major, no problem. But if I don't have that little semitone at the start, it changes the rhythm, and then I have to put a half step in between that note and that note. So that's the sort of stuff you should be on the lookout for, you know, to make your lines flow better. And then I could perhaps did a resolve like that. You know, there's different ways of resolving. So that's very, very simple. You could use any other ones, like you could use the major seventh. And then... And that's good at that, right? Let's work on that a little bit. It's a nice sound. Let's try that again. And then it'll be that one. Okay, and then there's that. So that's another way of doing it. So that's a really nice sound. That sort of, or of course you could use the dominance. I find it's a bit of a boring sound, really, to be honest. You know, and then you mix it up. Okay. Yeah.